Just a small quick revision of the remaining 3 questions. Hope you all were there yesterday. Yeah, so I discussed about the 3 questions yesterday. So now the remaining 3, how to approach with that part. Let me give you a small glimpse. I'm not going to take much of your time. It just we'll do it, tuck, 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 we'll move it. Then we'll give you a break. Fine. So the next question was, yeah. So I'll take it was a 12th question. What were the major what were the major technological changes introduced during the Sultanate period? Sultanate period. Getting this is the question. When you look at it, it is for again 250 words. Again, it was for 15 marks. So this was the 12th question when you look at it. Now again, getting into a small introduction. As I told you yesterday, any question would have 3 parts: introduction, body, conclusion. I told you a quick revision, history to be very simple. You should include years into it, number 2. Number 3, keep it more conceptual, then conclude it. When these are all there, your answer would look complete. Keep it very simple, don't complicate. And it's a traditional subject, so we are going to keep it like to the facts. So the question starts with what? So they're going to ask you what were the major technological changes. So what is technology? When you apply science, it becomes technology. So what was the changes introduced during the Delhi Sultanate period? It's a very direct, simple question. So in the introduction, what are we going to write? So in the introduction, we are going to write about the Delhi Sultans or the period of the Delhi Sultanate. So if you look into the bracket of Delhi Sultanate began in 1206. It came to an end in 1526. Get it? So we are not going into the slave, which comprises 5 dynasties. The 5 dynasties were the slave dynasty, the Khilji dynasty, the Tughlaq dynasty, the Sayyid and the Lodi. So in the classes, you would know the name of the dynasties. But here, you're not going to write all of them. You're not going to write. You're just going to write an introduction of the Delhi Sultans or the Delhi Sultanate. They were the first Turkish rulers of India. Because before this, we had the era of Rajputs. Getting it? This is the beginning of medieval Indian history. Rajputs began, then we happen to have the Delhi Sultanate. So when you look at this period, so give an introduction about the Delhi Sultanate. So they were Turks. They ruled from 1206 to 1526. And they gave a consolidated rule in India. And a firm foundation was established. 3 lines. We are done with our introduction. Then coming on to the body, what is there in the body? So what do we expect to be answered in the body? They're asking about the technological changes introduced. So what were the changes which was introduced? Which was there? Getting it? There are 2 types of changes. One, certain things would have already been there, but certain things should have been totally new. Getting it? That innovation, invention, already existing ones were advanced. You have to keep that in mind because here it is said that technological changes. So when you look at the changes, we are structuring it into different compartments. We are taking it into different heading. So what would be the heading? The first heading we can say in the field of, let's take it, in the field of textile. So you can make your body like the technological changes introduced where? Getting it? Number 1, in the field of textile. So in the field of textile, what did they actually do? Say for example, we all know weaving machine. Getting it? Handloom was already there. But now what did they do? They introduced something called pit loom. Pit loom was introduced. So getting it? Plus this pit loom. Getting it? So this made weaving much faster. So getting weaving was there, but weaving was a little bit faster and more colors were added in the process of weaving. Initially, when a cloth was made, it was a single color. Now 2 varieties of colors were added there. So these changes were introduced by whom? The Delhi Sultanate. You can just add pit loom was actually introduced. Just a line where weaving became much faster. And again, different colors were used in clothing. Because initially people used to wear the same colored cloth. Now different color, just 2 lines. If you do not know, you can skip the explanation part. Just write Pitloom was introduced. The second one, as I told you, lots of dye was introduced. So dye gave what? Multiple shades. So Delhi Sultanate started using multiple dye. Getting it? So the dyeing process got advanced during the process of what? Delhi Sultanate. And when people started wearing multiple colors, what will happen? Don't you think the supply and demand will match with each other? So the purchasing power will increase. So don't you think this will promote trade? This will promote the textile industry? Getting it? So automatically what happened? The economic prosperity was seen. So these two, you can say that in the field of textile, the Delhi Sultanate advanced it, number 1. Going on to the second part, in the field of, we can say, architecture. When you take in the field of architecture, for the first time, what was introduced? Delhi Sultans introduced the concept of arch. Getting it? The concept of arch and the concept of dome architecture. See, before that, when you look at the ancient Indian architecture, we never had the concept of arch and dome. And this dome was particularly what? It was a hollow dome. You get inside the structure, if you lift your head, you'll have that hollowness. So Delhi Sultans introduced the concept of what? Hollow dome structure. So this structure was something very new to India. So this architecture attracted. Are you getting attracted? The common people to look into it, to view into it. So that was one style they actually made. The second thing what they did, that is adding more of lime and mortar as a cementing agent. Getting it? So initially we did have this. It's not like we are not having it. What were the changes introduced? Which means more amount of lime. Lime was used as a cementing agent. So automatically we call that arcuate style. When the arcuate style was made, this lime and mortar made the building to stand sturdy. Getting it? And again, once they made the building, they started to polish the building completely. So automatically that gave the building a fine look. Say for example, there's a building called the Quwat-ul-Islam Mosque. If you want to give an example, you can say the Quwat-ul-Islam Mosque, built by Qutbuddin Aibak. So he built this, and where is it? It is at Delhi, near Qutub Minar. So this is the first dome architecture of India. So when you look at this building, you see the dome and you see the arch style here. For the first time, India had these kind of building. So this attracted the common masses. So which made what? The building material became very strong. And they started making strong beams. And they started making strong iron beams was introduced. So this made the building to stand what? In a sturdy way. So this was a kind of an advancement. See, we do have them in engineering today. But before that, in ancient India, these were not that much in greater use. So who actually widely used it? It was the Delhi Sultans. Yeah. No, dome was there, but that was stupa. It was not hollow. We are talking about the hollowness. Stupa was solid. No. The hollow dome comes. Who introduced hollow dome in India for the first time? Turks. Who introduced arch? Turks. So are you getting it? So stupa was never hollow. Stupa was solid. Clear? So this is that's what I've drawn the structure. The structure of hollowness comes with them. And particularly we call this style as arcuate. Why do we say arcuate style? Making an arch and entering into that. That style was an attraction. That's an Islamic style. So when that Islamic style entered India, they were Turks. We call it as Indo-Islamic architecture or Indo-Turkish architecture. So it entered with whom? The Delhi Sultans. Where was dome in ancient India? Where? We don't have a dome. You mean to say the stupa? Stupa is under the semi-solid, the solid structure, but that was not hollow. Yeah, that is Torana. That is cave architecture. That is rock-cut cave architecture. We are talking about purely with brick and stone. You are talking about a Chaitya Vihara, that is rock-cut, right? Getting that, you make a design. If this is a cave, you just make a design here. Lomas Rishi cave, Barabar cave. So that is cave architecture. We are talking about pure brick and stone in Arcurate. Who introduced that? Pure brick and stone in Arcurate style was introduced by Delhi Sultans only. That's why the first example of a dome building in India is what? Quatul Islam Mosque. Who built it? Qutbuddin Aibak, which means slave dynasty. So that's what in one prelims there was a question. Which among the following was true regarding Babur? There was a question. In that option it said Babur introduced arch and dome architecture in India. That is wrong. Babur did not introduce. Who introduced it? Delhi Sultans introduced. So these are all concepts. Now you have to be very clear. Be careful when you're studying about a dome, whether it's hollow, whether it's shallow, whether it's arcuate or trebiate. You have to be very particular. So this was introduced by whom? It was introduced by Delhi Sultanate. And don't you think Qutub Minar? Again an attraction, a taller kind of a minar-like structure. Getting it? So all those big beams were made and they were made to make the building very strong and solid. So this too you can give example for what? In architecture. The third one we can go on with agriculture. What was the status in agriculture? The Delhi Sultans were first, they introduced something called the Persian wheel. So the concept of Persian wheel was introduced by the Delhi Sultan. See, initially we did have the concept of wheel, but this Agrahatta, where this irrigation, so what did the Persian wheel do? It made what faster? It made irrigation faster. So this concept, because it's, look at the name, it's called what wheel? Persian wheel. So the Turks borrowed it from Persia. When it entered India, automatically what happened? Irrigation process doubled in India. So this led to what? This led to advancement in agriculture, advancement in architecture, advancement in textile. So that is how we need to see. How was the economic aspect of Delhi Sultanate? That was greater, much greater. So we see the concept of Persian wheel. The second one, they introduced a kind of a measuring element. They introduced a kind of a measuring element, which we call it as Gas-e-Sikandari. So if you're worried with the terms, you can ignore. Let me tell you that. No, need not sit and mug up all the term. Because how many to remember, how many to memorize, that's always a big game. So if you know the concepts thoroughly, and these concepts were all taught in the classes, what were the changes? Because whenever we study about a particular topic, and whenever something is new, when we talk about them, we always say why. What changes did they bring? Why did they actually enter India? And after that, how did they actually make the Indian economy flourishing? So history should always have this kind of an idea. When you get these ideas, automatically, we will get what? We will get the answer of what made them to enter. Keep this in mind and study all the topics. You will eventually get it. So again, a measuring element was there. That was Gas-e-Sikandari. That is a name. So where people started measuring the land. The land measurement was made exactly proper. So this measurement made what? It made the process of land revenue collection faster. So again, what happened? The process of land revenue became what? Fast. Because when you start measuring the land, don't you think, how was land revenue measured? 1/4 of the produce, 1/6 of the produce. So how will you collect it? When you start collecting it with this unit, it became even more faster. So again, the next one we move on is with military. So what happened with military? What were the changes? See, when Alexander entered India, we had a new element of military strategy entering India. After that, we have Indo-Greeks coming up. Military advancement was seen. Then we had the Turks entering India with Ghazni and Ghori. Advancement was again doubling. But what did happen with the Delhi Sultanate? So they started introducing iron stirrups. Iron stirrups were there, and these iron stirrups with toe hooks was introduced for the first time. So what is a stirrup? Stirrup is a kind of like a saddle. It's just like you put your feet and you climb the horse. So that when you climb a horse, automatically these stirrups will give you what? An advancement, a good edge in warfare. But when you look at Greeks, Indo-Greeks introduced metal stirrups. Already we had metal stirrup. Now what stirrups are coming? Iron stirrups are coming. And when you put your feet inside your toe, there'll be a small clip for the toe. So you insert your toe there. Automatically what happens? You'll get a grip when you're riding a horse. So this makes what? Mobile cavalry faster. So a horseman can double the speed in the riding and he can fight faster. So this was an advancement which took place in what field? In the field of military. So this is actually one of the greatest one. That is also one reason why when Delhi Sultans entered the warfare, there were lots of winning edge seen. Look at the battles fought majoritarily by the Delhi Sultans. They actually won the battle. Why? Because the Turkish archers and the Turkish cavalry men were already, were always seen as what? A scary element only. Because of the speed, because of the cavalry system, what they had. So this was introduced by them during this period. Ma'am, should I write the year? Should I write the king? Should I write the, the name of the particular element? You need not remember. That is for optional students. Even for optional students, I tell them don't be factual. Because you keep on memorizing all the year, keep on studying all the element, then how many would you study? How many would you register? How many would you write? So that's humanly impossible. Because the question is, what were the changes in a general way? So when we take the 4 changes, plus there were multiple changes. But here when they talk about technology, you can even add, if you take agriculture, you can even add horticulture. Firoz Shah Tughlaq introduced the concept of horticulture. So many elements. Are you getting the concept of horticulture? What's horticulture? Yeah? Fruits. Are you getting it? Yeah? Yeah, fruits and flowers. Are you getting it? So the concept of lots of tulips, lots of special variety of flowers, getting it? Were actually sowed in the palace of what? Firoz Shah Tughlaq. So all these started developing. See, it was there in India. Again, I mean to tell you that it was all there in India, but we need to highlight what? We need to highlight the changes introduced by the Delhi Sultan. You have to hit it there, then and there. As you said, the concept of a semicircular element is there in India, but that hollowness comes with whom? The Delhi Sultanate. When you start highlighting that in each and every part, and don't you think technology becomes an indispensable tool today? Because technological advancement is always seen as what? A sense of awe. We always look high on technological advancement. And what does technology give us? Technology makes our life easier. So let it be any sort of technology. Don't you think? With these military technology, they were able to win wars. With agricultural technology, they were able to produce more. With the measuring sticks, they were able to collect land revenue better. So in every aspects of life, get it? So the concept of pulley, we all know pulley system. So pulleys were already there in India, but the exact concept of a circular pulley was introduced during this time. So life became much faster. Why? And what were the major reasons for these introduction? Because these Turks, they were all predominantly Turks. Delhi Sultans were predominantly Turks, and these Turks were connected with the world then. And they were connected with the Central Asians, they were connected with the Persians, they were connected with the Afghans. So the Central Asians, Afghans and the Persians, when they all came together, don't you think sharing of knowledge would eventually happen? So that is what the concept of Minar was introduced in India by Turks. But how could the concept of Minar come? Because there was a cultural influx there in the northwestern part of India. When you start mingling with multiple culture, don't you think the cultural element will automatically enter a particular land? And when they started to stabilize themselves, they started to introduce that. That is why we always said during Firoz Shah Tughlaq's period, there was a great advancement in technology, particularly during the Delhi Sultanate period. So you can give a conclusion with that. With all these changes, the Delhi Sultans were able to give what? A proper economic stability. They were able to win all battles, and the people particularly who were under the direct control of Delhi Sultanate, they had a stable, settled life. You win war, you earn well, your land revenue is fine, getting it, your economy life gets contented. So how will the lifestyle of Delhi Sultanate be? With peace and prosperity. When you know the content, so that is the conclusion. So automatically what happened? It promoted what? It promoted economic stability to the people of India. Why? Because these technological advancements helped the common man, helped the peasant to do faster, helped the mason to cut things faster, helped the weaver to weave faster, helped the dyer to color faster. So automatically what happened? Whatever advancement they brought, it attracted the common masses. I'm giving an overview so that with that, we are just going to write a conclusion. So your conclusion should be positive because the question talks nothing about any negativity. So is it clear? So this is about, it's an overall idea. When you start studying it again and again, you will get the concept. So moving on to the next concept, a very easy question again. It's the 13th question. how did the colonial rule, so how did the colonial rule affect the tribals of India? How did the colonial rule affect the tribals of India? And what were the tribal response? What were the tribal response to the colonial oppression? What were the tribal response to the colonial oppression? So don't you think again the question looks very simple? It's like how. So you're going to give an answer. How? When they ask you how, you have to directly explain it. Again, look at the second part. So this question has got two parts. How? The second one is what? Getting it? Again, the same thing applies here. It was for 15 mark and it was for 250 words, which means you're going to write it for 2.5 pages. So what is the question? How did the colonial rule affect the tribals of India? So the question is nothing. In modern India, we have a chapter called the Peasant and Tribal Uprising. So it's only tribal uprising. Entire topic is only 3 pages. The entire topic, tribal uprising, is only 3 pages. If you thorough the tribal uprising, you'll be able to write it. It looks factual because you have to write some facts here about some tribes. Getting it? So which means first, in an introduction. So what will be the introduction? When you start with an introduction, who were tribes or who are? Because we're talking about past. So who were the tribes? Who were tribes? Tribes were the native sons of a particular region. Or you can call them as what? The sons of the soil. So they were the indigenous people of the land. So where do you find? So give an introduction of tribes, 2 to 3 line. Natives of the soil, sons of the soil, or indigenous people of the particular land. And tribes are very much connected to what? Very much emotionally connected to the land. You touch their land, they would be so much affected. So are you getting? So that's one thing about the tribe. And where do we find tribes? We find tribes in the hilly region. We find tribes in the central Indian forest. Then we find the tribes in the northeastern part of India. So you can just give a rough idea. Need not write about all of them. Of course, every part of India has got an element of tribal element. But we are consolidating it and we are bringing it into 3 regions. Tribes are found in the hilly region, plus central Indian forest region and northeastern region. So again, this is the introduction, a small introduction of the tribe. Coming on to the body. What is the body? So how did the colonial rule affect the tribe? So getting it, so what is the body? You have to talk about the colonial rule. So getting it, it is exactly, when the Britishers started to occupy India and they started annexing all the provinces, particularly in the mainland of India, they later, as a process of expansion, began to occupy these tribal regions as well. So when they began to occupy these tribal regions, so why tribal region? There were multiple reasons for them. Say for example, number 1, the Britishers wanted lots of timber from the forest. So automatically what happened? To get the timber, they have to go to the tribal region and take what? To cut all the tree. So that affected whom? The tribes there. And gradually when they went to collect all the timber there, they found that there were some medicinal plants also there. So automatically I need to what? Native intelligence are very high with tribes. Tribes have that native intelligence. If they have fever, they'll take a small herb, they'll eat it. They're done. So they don't go with Dolo 650. They have a plant, they eat it, which means what? So automatically there were many medicinal herbs with them. So when the Britishers got to know the know-how about these herbs, so they started to use it for what? Commercialization. So number 2, they wanted the land. So they slowly started occupying the tribal land. But the tribes were very sentiment to their land. And again, the tribes were living in groups. Tribal mentality is what? A group mentality. So they couldn't oppose the colonial rule. Why? Because the colonial masters were so big. They couldn't fight with them. The army, whenever the colonial oppression takes place, they come with a huge army. So whenever in these regions the Britishers entered, the tribes could not fight against them at that point of time. So automatically they succumbed, they surrendered. So their lands were all occupied. Many lands in central India, many hilly tribal region, and many northeastern kingdoms were all annexed. Getting it? So when you see that, you need not write that. I'm just giving you a background because we are going to write how did the colonial rule affect the tribe. So to write the affect the tribe, we have to first see what did the Britishers do. So this happened in multiple waves. So first wave, Britishers targeted only central India. The second wave, they started targeting the hilly region. Where do you get the best honey? Hills. So to get honey from the hills, where do you go? You go to the tribal region. Who sells you honey before? A tribe would sell. Who sell all the herbal medicine? A tribe would sell. Who sell all the important type of wood? Getting it? Kind of sandalwood. You come to Karnataka, we have all the sandalwood. If you go to Andhra Pradesh, the redwood. Getting it? So everywhere the timber collection was always in scarce. So what happened? Local, zamindars, local rulers always used to hold a tribe. And they used to have what? Barter system or a money exchange system was generally happening in India. Every Indian ruler will have a tribe holder. So that, business began to prosper. But when Britishers wanted to hold the land also, and don't you think the tribal land is a new set of land? A new set of land. The occupation would be fresh there. Because tribes never exploit the region more. Tribes generally will promote the region only. Exploitation never happens by the tribe in their region. It's only promotion. When all these happened, the Britishers began to annex all these places. When they started encroaching all the tribal land, now the body comes into the picture. How did it affect them? So in the body, you can directly start that the colonial masters, they oppress the tribes because of, or you can directly start it like affect the tribals, number one. So how did it lose them? Loss of their tribal lands. Don't you think? They completely lost because they've occupied it. So how did it affect them? I was a landlord before, but now I don't have a land. When they went and attacked Assam, the tribal regions of Assam, particularly from the Ahom kingdom. So automatically what happened? The Ahoms lost their land. And what happened to these rulers? These rulers were made to work in the tea plantations of Assam. So don't you think that's again loss of sovereignty? So again, the second thing, loss of their own sovereignty. Particularly what sovereignty? Tribal sovereignty. You can add these 2 points, you can merge it, you can split it. I was once a tribal king, but now the Britishers have taken my land and now I'm no more a tribal king. So what will I apply? I will come here and automatically I have lost my land also. So loss of tribal land and loss of sovereignty. The third one with these, don't you think, with sovereignty and land, they completely lost what? They lost their independence. You can add it. See, it all looks similar. You can add it. They completely lost what? The right over their particular land was lost. So getting it? The third one, what happened? They lost their loss of tribal culture. The tribes lost their culture. What is the culture here? Tribes had a particular language. Now what was imposed? English was imposed. What was the religion of the tribes? Tribes were worshipping nature. Tribes were worshipping ancestors. Tribes had their own kuldev. You know kuldev? Their own gods, kula, because tribes are very particular about their clan. Clan culture is very emotional with them. So automatically what happened? They began to lose their religion. And what religion was imposed? Christianity entered the tribal region. That's why don't you think even today, you could see lots of northeastern states full of Christian elements are seen. Why? Missionaries were sent to control them. So loss of language, loss of religion, loss of their food, loss of their dress habits, everything, etc. started seeing. Look at the tribes there. Later, they were all what? Modernization was introduced to them. The food culture, the colonial food practices, or typically, say for example, if it was a northeastern region, the typically Bengali type of food started to enter. So the original indigenous food culture was predominantly lost because there was no other option. Why? I don't have land to cultivate all of them. So automatically, when people were divided, what happened? People started migrating. Where did they migrate? They began to migrate to other presidencies or other nearby region. Exactly the people of northeastern part. Where did they migrate? They migrated to regions of Bengal. The people of central India, they moved towards the central provinces. And the hilly region people, they settled accordingly wherever they found a kind of a presidency there or a princely state there. So the tribal infiltration was more during this period. Did the Britishers bother about that? No, they did not bother. So don't you think these three top points, it affected the tribals predominantly. Again, what happened? It led to what? There was an economic stress in their land. How did it affect? There was a big economic stress. What is that? Economic instability. Now, what will they cultivate? Where will they cultivate? How will they cultivate? They don't have any land. So automatically what happened? This economic stress led them to a life of what? Took them to a life of poverty. Initially, a tribe never knew poverty. Are you getting? They had a land, they cultivated it, they ate all of them from the land, they gave everything from the land. Now, for the first time, our Indian tribes are seeing what? It's kind of a hand-to-mouth existence. Getting it? So, automatically, economic stress was one of the problems. So, politically, there was a problem, loss of sovereignty, loss of independence. Economically, what happened? They've completely lost everything. Socially, what was their problem? They were badly divided. The tribes were divided. The tribes were mixed, actually. And don't you think every tribe has got a family? So, the family was a unique character of a clan culture. So automatically what happened? The social setup of the tribe, either they got merged, two tribes got merged, or one tribe got broken into multiple elements. Isn't it happening? Today we are talking about the tribal element there. The Manipur issue, about the tribal issues, what we are talking about it did not start today. The issues sprang up much earlier. Getting it? So who holds the land of that? Who are the original people? Don't you think there was a small mix which took place? Today we are not able to find who's the original one. Everyone claims to be an original one there in the northeastern part today. But don't you think, how did this mix started to come? It's because why? Because of the Britishers only. So when a tribe lost his identity, he took shelter in a nearby tribe. And for generations when he settled there, don't you think he will start owning the name of that family? This also started coming up. Though it might look very small, but this was a very big problem which came up later during post-independence era. This was a problem. That is why Nehru drafted a special province called the Tribal Policy of India. It was a very big issue. So that is with Nehru as a prime minister. But why would Nehru deal it, ma? Because of these problems only. The tribes got mixed. Because by face you can't identify a tribe. Because by face, by identity, they'll all look alike. They'll all look alike. But the language what they speak, the food what they eat, the dress what they wear, the culture what they hold was a unique element of a tribe. But don't you think even mainland Indians will not be able to find a particular tribal group even today? It's very difficult. Are you getting it? Imagine. And when they get mixed with each other, a tribe will know that he or she has lost what? Their identity, particularly the division. You can quote these 5 points telling that the colonial rule affected the tribes. Now the part is over. So what are the examples you can give here? I'm giving you rough examples because in classes we would have dealt it in detail. Here example you can give. Example, the Ahoms. The Ahoms. Example, the Ahom revolt. You need not write about them. Don't worry. Because no one is going to ask you write about the Ahom. Example, you can talk about what? The Bills. Example, you can talk about what? The Santals. Give rough example. Anyway, yeah. Are you getting, ma? You can write anyone. Are you getting? Because whenever we teach the tribal topic in detail, all these tribes were all undergoing what? These all problems. Yeah. You had something? No, you need not because how did the colonial rule affect the tribals in India? It's a general one. So you elaborate these points and give example. Either you can pick one here. Either you can pick one here and give independent example, or you can collectively give example telling that these were the tribes of India who were undergoing the problems with the Britishers. Because it's general. How? Don't feed the examiner more. Give him what he wants. That's what I told you. This time the history questions were very general. If you know the year, don't you think with the classes you would have studied the year? In the classes you would have studied the person Birsa Munda. You would have studied the person. Don't you think in the classes you would have studied about the leader who actually fought for their rights? So if you know them, you can add it. We are just generalizing here to tell you, because when I go inside the detail, it will look like a tribal class. Just take an idea. See, there's no particular format that you should write like this only. I may write something, you may write something, but don't you think, what will the examiner check? Are you and me in track or in sync with the demand of the question? So make sure you don't deviate yourself from the demand. And I told you yesterday, history without example goes a myth. So include examples in your answer. When you give, you can write. If you know them in detail. I always tell students, tribal and peasant uprising, thorough them. Socio-religious reform movement, tribes and peasant uprising, when you thorough them, these 3 topics will help you to put your edge into the other concepts as well. So always do that, because freedom struggle, These three topics are very, very important. And you can quote these there with the current ongoing issues also. So keep that in mind. Clear? The second part, what were the tribal response to the colonial oppression? So what did the tribes do? What were the response? The second part of the question. The first one is they led an armed struggle. They led an armed struggle. Tribes were continuously fighting. You can say the Paika rebellion. You can give an example of the Paika rebellion. Getting it? They all started to becoming in groups and they started fighting with the Britishers. They led an armed rebellion, number one. The second one, what happened? They fought with the Britishers openly. Open fight with the Britishers. Open fight. Here you can give an example of Birsa Munda. Getting it? He actually, he collected all the tribes together and he openly fought with them. One man openly fought with them, but still oppression was there. Suppression was there. We are not touching that point. But tribes did fail. Are you getting it? They did fail. But on learning their failure, we took some inspiration. Clear? Open fight. The third one you can say, they merged with the freedom struggle. Don't you think the tribes merged with the freedom struggle? Say for example, they merged with freedom struggle, which led to the path of non-violent activities. Don't you think? The second point we say open fight. But look at the third point. It's like satyagraha. It's like non-violence. Here you can take an example. Rani Gaiden Liu of Nagaland. She wanted to fight with the Britishers, but she was never violent. Her process was all what? A non-violent method. 1931, Rani Gaiden Liu of Nagaland. You can give her as an example. Rani Gaiden Liu. So again, she was an example of Nagaland. You can quote her as an example. And you can add one more example also. Don't you think during the civil disobedience movement, the tribes participated with what? The Gandhian Satyagraha. Tribes did lend their support. During the Quit India movement, a tribal support was seen. So how do you write it? They merged with what? They merged with the freedom struggle. They couldn't fight alone. So automatically what they started doing? They started joining Gandhi. When they joined hands with Gandhi, don't you think Gandhi got the support from the tribes? So our freedom movement took a what? A very different shape. So you can quote these three. Getting it? So three there, you can make it. You can just elaborate it and you can consult. Just 2 pages. If you write it, then how do you conclude? When you give a conclusion, you can just write tribal response to the colonial oppression. Though the tribal oppression and the response looked like a failure, but yet it created a very big impact in the minds of what? The Indian freedom struggle movement or the people. So though it was a negative element, my tribal leaders, they always suppressed, all were killed, all the tribal lands were taken aback, but the tribal element left a deep impact in the Indian freedom struggle. You can conclude it like that. So just give it because it's very direct. How? And the next one is what? What? So don't you think it requires some sort of facts here as well? And moving on to the last question, a very simple question. That is the 11th question. I think I missed it out. What were the major features of Vedic society and religion? So we are going, it's a very factual question, religion. Do you think some features are, do you think some of the features are still prevalent or still prevailing? Still prevailing in the Indian society. So I think this is a question. It's a very simple, easy question, which is again for 250 words. This is again for 15 marks. Again, the keyword here, what do you think? Getting it? So what are they asking about? The Vedic society and religion. When they talk about the Vedic society, it's both early Vedic period and you have to talk about the later Vedic period. So there are 2 periods. You have to add both of them together. Early Vedic period and later Vedic period. Please club it together. If they ask you Rig Vedic period, if they ask you later Vedic period, then you segregate. The question is Vedic period, which means what? Early Vedic and later Vedic. So what we are going to do, we are going to write about the Vedic society and religion. There are two ways of writing this. One, you can make a table. You can make a table telling that the Vedic society, and you can write all the points. Or the other one, you can make a paragraph telling that this is how the Vedic society was. So in the introduction, what are you going to write? Introduction, you're going to write about the Vedic period. So what is the age of Vedic period? 1600 BC to 600 BC is the bracket of Vedic age. You're going to give a year because history without years is incomplete. 1600 BC to 600 BC is the bracket or is the period of the Vedic culture in India or the age of Vedic age. And this Vedic age is divided into two, early Vedic and later Vedic, where there were many changes seen both in both in societal and religious practices. Just give a small introduction about them, about these only. Write the year, write the Vedic period, and tell the examiner how the Vedic period is divided. 2 to 3 lines. Done. So I'm just making it very simple. The question is like Vedic society. So when you look at the Vedic society, how was the Vedic society and religion? When you look at the Vedic society and religion, number one, I'm taking numbers. The Vedic society was patriarchal. The Vedic society had what? It had a joint family system. Getting it? And in the Vedic society, it was divided into 4, where we have the concept of the Varna system entered. That entered with LVP. Then the 4th one, we can take the concept of Jati and Gotra entered during the Vedic period. Then again coming on to the 5th one, the concept of marriage. There were many types of marriage during the later Vedic period, early Vedic and later Vedic. Here you can just take an example, monogamy. Getting it? We can take the concept of monogamy. We can even take the concept of polygamy, etc. All these, we'll just take 2 because we're not doing a detailed study about them. So these were all there with marriages. And in the concept of marriage, the concept of dowry entered during Vedic age. Stridhan. It was called Stridhan, which entered during the later Vedic period. So later Vedic age add these 6 points. Getting it? Then the 7th one, untouchability entered. Untouchability entered during the Vedic age. Getting it? Then the 8th one, we happen to see what? The concept of prostitution. That also entered during the Vedic age. Prostitution was there, dowry was there, untouchability was there, joint family was there, Varna, Jati, Gotra was there. We are taking all of them. Then the 9th one, we can take that in religion. Getting it? Nature worship predominantly existed. So nature worship existed, animism existed. What is animism? Worship of animals, nature worship, sun, moon, all of them were worshipped. Then the 11th point, we can say the Vedic gods. The Vedic gods. Who were the Vedic gods? The Vedic gods predominantly were Rudra. The Vedic gods were Prajapati, that is Brahma. Then we have Vishnu. Then we have Krishna. Yeah, Shiva. There's no term Shiva mentioned, Rudra. Vedas never have the term Shiva. Shiva is identified as what? Rudra. Then apart from this, we have Indra. Apart from this, we have Varuna. Apart from this, we have Vayu, etc. So in one line, how do we club them? We club them as what? Vedic period, it was into polytheism. Don't you think? What is not monotheism. Vedic page was what? Propounding what? Polytheism, worshipping of multiple gods at a time. So getting it? So when you take religion here and animism, which was sacred then, cow was sacred. In nature worship, which was sacred then, sun was sacred. Again, rain was also considered to be sacred. So when you club both Vedic age, this is the Vedic age, society and religion. So if you know your classes in detail, we'll be doing all of them together with numbers. I'm giving you the major element. Getting it? Now look at the question. Look at the question. What were the main features of the Vedic societies? You're going to write the feature. Their family system, joint family system, you're going to write it. Then, do you think some of the features still prevalent in Indian society? So just have a look. Are we patriarchal today? Yes. Do we have a joint family system today? Yes. Do we practice Varna, Jati, Gotra? Is it there in the Indian society? Yes. Is marriage monogamy there? Yes. Is polygamy there? Some tribal groups have polygamy. Is dowry there today? Yes. Is untouchability seen? Yes. Is prostitution there? Yes. See, the variety changes. Prostitution was not evil in Vedic age, but today it is forced. It is evil. So we are not objectifying that. Are there some similarity? Are they continuing today is the question. So don't go somewhere. Don't beat around something else. You have to be to the point of what they ask. Then, is nature worship there today? Yes. Is cow worship there? Yes. Are these gods worshipped? They're all merged as Hindu gods? Yes. So can we say, yes, the Vedic elements are still seen in our Indian society today with minor alteration. Please do understand, we don't exactly go with minor alterations. You have to include this, ma. We have some alterations here. Exactly we don't follow, but small alterations are there. But the core concept of the Vedic age is still seen where? Is still seen in our Indian history today. That's it. So this is how you need to take it. So just keep it, study your facts thoroughly, have an applied mind, then look at the question. And as I told you yesterday and today, history questions are all very direct. It's like what, how, why, where, when. So clear? So thank you so much. I have a small announcement. This announcement is for history optional students. History optional students, I would be having a detailed question and answer session, and I would be discussing the history optional paper of 2023. So that would also be the same type of a session, but there I would be giving you the keywords, because due to the length of the paper, I will discuss all the question, but I would be giving you the keywords of each and every topic. So this announcement is for history optional students. The second announcement from my side, we'll let you know the date soon. Yeah. Yeah. Guptas. Sati comes with Guptas, not here. Yeah, Sati comes with Guptas, not in Vedic age. So if we write it here, it will go wrong. Your factual error. Yeah. Yeah. In the second announcement, I would be launching a separate history GS crash course for prelims and mains as well. So next year, the coming year, that is from Jan, I'll be launching a separate crash course for history GS. So that's a separate initiative. Students who are not GS students, general studies students of Shubhra Ranjan IAS, can get yourself enrolled, and that would be a special course only on history, where ancient, medieval, art and culture, modern history only would be taught. And then after prelims is over, I would be launching a crash course on history GS mains. There the course would include ancient, medieval, modern, art and culture, post-independence, world history. So these are two separate courses which I'm planning to launch it here. So we will let you know about the duration. We will let you know about the fee structure. We will let you know about the timings very soon. So this is from my side. I thought we are launching it. So thank you so much. Yeah, all the best.